Okay, I needed a second antenna, and instead of ordering the same one, and let me just zoom in on this one, I did a review on it, and when I placed it, of course, by the patio door, the standing wave ratio, SWR, was fantastic on 2 meters. On 70 centimeters, there was a lot of looping, but it was definitely a worse scenario 2-to-1. But they had resonant dips, if you want to call it. I decided to get a different antenna. Similar gain. It's the Nagoya, the TB 320A. A standing for amateur, and you can get per GMR if it says 320G. The difference between the two antennas, the Nagoya is actually a tri-band, 144, 220, and 430. I don't have 220. I still don't have any interest in it. So, but it doesn't matter. It covers the two bands that I have. So it does have that extra feature if you do have a tri-bander. Gain-wise, it's a little bit less. Here it says 2.15, 3.8, 5.5. And this one says 3.8, 6.2. Maximum output is 150, while the other one is 200 watts. So basically 2 meters, 1/4 wave, 220 is half, and 2 times 5/8 for the UHF. And I believe it's basically the same. However, there is a difference between the two when it comes to bandwidth. I was quite surprised how the Nagoya had a wider bandwidth with a very low SWR, both on VHF and UHF. So when it comes to bandwidth, this did indeed surpass the Comet, the CA2 by 4SR. So if you're going to use this antenna like I do indoors, Nagoya is the way to go. It seems to stay, good bandwidth, low SWR, even though you have it shoved in the corner or something like that. Now, I tested both of them side by side. Here, let me show you what I used. Okay, on my counter, I use the same mount, and both of them are PL259. The Nagoya comes with an adapter for NMO, which is great. Now, before I did the testing, I actually checked the quality of the cable. Let me show you that one. Okay, I use this unit. I do have an adapter for NMO, but in this case I didn't have to. So I connect this cable to this. First of all, check the output of my ICOM IC705. It was saying 11 watts. Yeah, by the time the RF reached here, it was reading about 9, a little bit over 9 watts. So it kind of tells me the condition of this cabling. I'm not sure the exact length of it, whether it's 15 or more. However, I do have others. This is where the surprise came in. Hey, this one here, same setup, plugged into my 705 with the equipment. It was reading about 8 watts. Output from my 705 was 11. The other unit showed about a little bit over 9. This one here was a little bit over 8. And then I had 2 more. This one was like 2 or 3 watts. Actually, I think it was less than 2. Cable doesn't look damaged, but it's obviously a piece of junk. 2-3 watts. So here we have a high gain antenna and putting out 11 watts and you end up with 2. This one here was 6 watts. Fortunately, not this one here, but this one here in particular, I can replace the cable if I had to. And that's true even with this other one. Let me just go over. So when you buy a mag mount, buy one where you can replace the cable. And if it comes with 15 feet and you only need 5 feet or 10 feet, cut it. It will reduce the loss. Okay. The build. I would say the quality is very similar. The only difference, the Nagoya is chrome plated, while this one is some sort of black finish on it. Assuming over stainless steel. For connecting to a PL259, this seems to be a little bit wider than the Nagoya. However, the Nagoya, let me show you that one. With the Nagoya, you get this adapter, NMO. You screw it in and you can put it on an NMO mount. Handy little tool, and it was also handy for actually testing the different mounts. I have one more mount coming in today. It's also from Nagoya, so I'm not able to test it, but when it does come in, I will. One thing I do now, I order a new mag mount, I test it. If the loss is high, I return it and issue a complaint to the quality of the cabling. I guess a good lesson was learned. I don't think I ever seen anyone test mag mounts themselves, the cable that comes with it. If you're the type that puts on a roof of a vehicle and feed it through a door and then you close the door on the cable, over time you will definitely create an impedance bump, a little nick or compression on the cabling. And you're wondering, I'm not getting out as I used to. Figuring it's propagation issue when in fact it's really the cable. I would strongly recommend if you ever buy a mag mount or any type of connector that comes with a coax from the factory, get one that you can replace with your own cable. The antenna itself usually does not deteriorate unless weather gets inside the coil, fills up with water or something like that. And of course, stainless steel, it's important so you don't get none of the rust. So if you see any rust developing on the set screws or something like that, replace it with stainless steel, because that corrosion will affect the contact. I thought it was interesting and I want to share this information. I also want to make comments about comparing antennas. I see a lot of people testing antennas. They're not very accurate. There's too many variables involved. They'll use different radios, they'll use different connectors when they're making tests. And propagation varies very quickly. So unless you have a proper antenna lab farm, it's hard to get an accurate efficiency, I guess, of the antenna. Generally, my feeling is if you buy from a reputable company, they're all pretty good. The difference you may not even notice. The design of a brand does make a difference. I guess you can say the way they tune it. And one manufacturer may tune towards a certain center of the band and another one different, especially when they're trying to cover a wide range, not just the amateur band, but also GMRS. And one of the things I like about the Nagoya, they actually produced this for GMR and ham radio. So when you see an A is for amateur, if you see a G, that's for GMRS. So something in mind. The only time I could see a problem occurred where an antenna gets a bad reputation is fakes, or antennas being made, rejected by a brand name company, and the people who make them package it. Instead of throwing it out, they'll package it to a similar package, enough to not to violate copyright, and they'll sell it. And you think you're buying the real McCoy or one that's been accepted by the manufacturer. In fact, I believe that's what happened with Nagoya several years ago. It became a very, very, very clone and faked antenna sold. It appears that they may have improved that scenario. I have no reason to think this is a fake. By its performance, the quality of the build, and I believe this one is a tilt down. Let me check. Tilt down. Pretty good. Yeah, this is the environment I set it up. This antenna, Nagoya, for indoor use, where you're near walls and different obstruction. When it comes to standing wave ratio, bandwidth, this is the antenna. It definitely outperformed the Comet. There's my ground plane. And speaking of ground plane, I got the GPK 01. Comes with a bracket. This is where I would need to use my NMO connector. And underneath the 259. So here's the bracket and some clamps you can put on the pole. So when you're doing portable work, maybe even mount this on the ladder of your RV. I'll test this to see how well it works as a ground plane. And now I gotta get some materials to handle that. And what's nice with this adapter, I can use the Comet on it. I know from my previous testing on the Comet, outside, fantastic SWR, pretty well flat right across. Indoors, near objects and things of that sort, I find it seems to be affected more. But they're both work very good when it comes to reception. When I did a reception test with distant repeaters and so forth, the differences, if there was any, was very little. So Most of the problem is the cabling. The cabling that you use for your mag mount or feeding your antenna. Even brand new, coming out from the manufacturers, the loss is high. They're using cheap quality cables. RG58, but who knows, maybe they're rejected cables, because that also occurs. So if you haven't done that, check your cables with an SWR and watt meter. See what the losses are. I was quite surprised. I have one that's only less than 2 watts coming out. So obviously the cable doesn't look damaged, but it's very, very stiff like a wire. So it doesn't feel like an RG58, even though that's the label on it. Okay, hopefully this helps. Have a nice day. Until next time. If interested, I posted some graphs using the ICOM 705, the SWR reading. This would be for the Nagoya. I can also show the ones for the Comet. It's actually way worse. But then again, as you can see, the layout of the antenna location, it does pretty good. You may have to pause to read the frequencies and see the pattern. Now, UHF, it's a very wide band, 430 to 450. So you're going to see curves. And I did not make no adjustments to the antennas. In fact, they claim that you don't have to for the amateur band. But I know I had to make a few adjustments on the Comet originally. But it falls in the area that I operate, so I left it as is. Don't even touch it. But imagine if there was something in particular you needed to be more resonant, slight adjustments could be made. I should give you a longer period of time to watch this. Okay, I increased the length of the screenshots so you can kind of watch it. The steps I use 500K with 13 bars, which is kind of coarse. When you want to get a much more finer picture, you can reduce it, and you actually get a picture of showing even better SWR reading. Anyways, again, I appreciate it if you haven't done so. Subscribe, put notification up. I don't have no set time as of yet to post things, and I have more to come. I still got to check out that ground plane and a few other videos. So keep in touch. Have a nice day.